This is Inside the Locker Room, where football isn't just a game, it's a war zone. Every take, unfiltered. Every prediction, ruthless. From Sunday battles to primetime legends. We break down the matchups, the mind games, and the moments that define champions. Fantasy, film, trash talk, all inside the locker room. So if you came for smoke, you're in the fire now.
We are back with another episode of Inside the Locker Room. And look, I know a lot of y'all been anxious and asking us when's our next video dropping. And look, we got a lot of content coming out this week. Ben and Adam, our other two co-hosts, are going to be with us also dropping content. But look, if you notice something, we have two UAPB women's basketball players here today. Jailah Pelly and Kanaya Gardner are here with us today. How are y'all doing?
Good. I'm feeling good.
We're doing good. And look, Michael was the one that set all this up. He's the one that put you really, because look, honestly, I've been looking at all the SWAC teams, but really I've been focused on really one like basketball team for the women's side. And when Michael showed me y'all's when he sent me y'all's information, he showed me y'all's team. You know, I started looking to what's called the UAPB women's basketball team. And look, we're gonna talk about y'all in a bit. But Michael, I want to let you start this all up because you're the one that made all this happen.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, this is just a team thing, honestly. And even though I appreciate, the spotlight, of me getting these two dominant and really good basketball players, women's basketball players at that, on here. First and foremost, let me say this, Deuce. I did this for not only for the sake of us, but for women's basketball. Cause like I said, we never really talk about women's basketball like that. And for our audience, let me also say this: these two individuals right here are our first two women's basketball players to be on this podcast. So shout out to both of you for taking the time to be on here. And just taking the time because, like I said, we try to be professional. We try to be, scheduled and all that particular. So we appreciate both of you for not only, DMing me back on our HBCU Central page, but also just, understanding that we're not coming from a wrong way. We're coming from the right way of, getting y'all, the national spotlight that many other big schools are getting. So my first question to the both of you, and this is for the both of y'all, y'all head coach, Coach Erica Lee's coaching style is described as a relationship-based and intense with positive reinforcement. How does that approach influence your individual performances and the team's overall dynamic so far this year?
I think just her getting to know like our strengths and weaknesses, knowing what I'm really good at, knowing what certain people are really good at, and just making plays based off that, just to set us up for success. Like knowing that I work better, maybe at the free throw line better than as a post player, and like just knowing the small things that could help her make a play based off of our strengths. Don't basically not putting us in a bad position when it comes to being able to score.
Yeah. I would say, like, also having a relationship outside of basketball. Like, she was a dog on the court, so she's, like, raising dogs. She's training dogs. So it's just, like, she wanted it so bad. She wanted everybody else to have it so bad. She's always positive. So,
Agreed. And, me, like I said, me and Deuce, we talk about this all the time. It takes a head coach to build a foundation and on a team, whether it doesn't matter, what team it, how a team is looking. It's just a matter of, if the head coach is the main general of that foundation, and she has shown time and time again throughout this year that the team bonding is there, the chemistry is there, the love for all of you is there. And me and Deuce talk about this all the time. A connected locker room can go a long way, just determining how the season will go. So the fact that she is having y'all do team meetups, cause like you told me, how you say your name again, Janaya, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, Jailah.
Jailah. Okay. I just want to make sure I got y'all right. Okay. So I remember you telling me that y'all had team meetings and stuff like that, and I remember telling you that a lot of coaches don't do that, and the fact that she does that, that just shows that the locker room it's a sisterhood in that locker room, and that goes a long way in determining how the season will go. Because if you have a brotherhood or a sisterhood locker room, that determines how your season is going to go and how successful y'all go. Because success matters, but the only way success can be provided is that the connection is there throughout the entire locker room, from the coaches to the players. So my question for you, Janaya, is that you're known to be scoring ability, 3-point shooting, and playmaking, leading the team in assists per game. You've had a significant scoring nights, including a 23-point game against Florida A&M when you hit 6 3-pointers. How did you get into that zone during? How did you get into that zone during a game?
Okay, so it comes with like before the game, locking in, talking to the team, talking about the scout, and like just the warm up and working outside of basketball, like just outside of practice. And like, when you have a good shoot around, a good warm up, you just know it's just gonna come naturally during the game.
Can I ask my question?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question to y'all is basically, look, y'all had a tough stretch against Grambling and Southern, and look, we know that, the fans know that. But my question to y'all is, in the locker room, how do y'all just bounce back from those 2 losses? Because coming up next, y'all got Mississippi Valley, and then y'all got a good Jackson State team coming up. So y'all have to be on y'all's A game coming up for these next 2 games.
So basically, we just take that with a chin up, just lock in during practice time. We don't want to feel that like kind of that losing pain again. So it's just like just time to get back.
Yeah, I feel like we felt that before. Like we took our L's and then we bounced back like we did. So it's nothing new. I feel like we know what to do. We can watch film. We can watch ourselves. We know what to fix. We know what we need to go work on, and that's basically it. Go work on it and just move forward.
Yeah, and then my next question, y'all, and look, Michael said it earlier. Look, the SWAC play is different because you just never know. Everybody is neck and neck, and we even see this with the men's side of things. We see teams just beating on each other, and it's not really. We don't really get like a clear champion until the SWAC tournament. And I use Grambling as like Grambling's men's basketball team, for example. Last year they started poorly and marched all the way up to the SWAC championship, and we're like 1 game away from the actual championship game. So that's my thing. But y'all, how did y'all just prepare, for the SWAC just in general? Because y'all had a hard non-conference schedule, but honestly, y'all have to prepare differently for conference play because these teams are the teams that know how to beat y'all the best because they played y'all for like years and years.
But it's like, okay, like with non-conference, it's just like skill levels from all over. So it was like, it's preparing us for the SWAC. It was never easy in non-conference, and SWAC not easy. So it was just like kind of equal, like the competition.
That's very reasonable because I'm looking at y'all schedule. Y'all started off the season with the win against Memphis, and y'all played a good Arkansas team, a good Louisiana Tech team, a good South Dakota team, a good TCU. TCU right now is ranked number 9 in the country. So look, and I like that y'all say it prepared y'all for the SWAC play, and we saw that at the beginning when y'all started 3-1. I believe y'all are going to bounce back because I've seen y'all's team, y'all and the men's team have really caught my surprise this year of how successful y'all been this season under y'all's head coaches. But Michael, do you have another question you got to ask?
Yeah, dude. So I'm gonna touch back off on what you said. Conference play it just really prepares players and it gets players to understand just how important conference play is. Now, I don't mean to be biased and I don't mean to be looking at it from a wrong point of view, but a part of me is not. It's kind of like I don't really agree with it because it kind of makes you never want to see your players get beat 20 to 30 points a game, and you never really want to see that. But a lot of people say it's for money purposes, so I can kind of understand that. I mean, you gotta find somehow some way to get money to go to the schools, athletic department, all this and that in particular. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I really like on what she said, and Deuce, you said yourself, it prepared y'all for conference play. And despite of how things are going, y'all both technically said it's going, and there's nothing wrong with that because the conference play is like you have your ups and you have your downs, but it's also determining how you take control each game in and game out. So I honestly think that it's still early in conference play. Y'all still have a chance to rise above all the obstacles that are coming against y'all. Y'all are still, in that right position to get into the right spot in conference play. Every team wants to finish off at least in the top 5 in the tournament. So that's another thing. You also want to make sure that you make the tournament. But my next question is for Miss Garner. Ms. Garner, you are a dominant force in the paint. You're known for your rebounding and ability to secure double doubles. You were recently earned SWAC Newcomer of the Week. First of all, congratulations to you, by the way, on that.
Appreciate it.
After a combined 27 points and 17 rebounds performance, what do you attribute your strong presence in the paint to?
I don't know. I kind of went into both of them games just not even really focused on trying to score. I kind of just wanted to just be helpful on maybe like both sides of the floor. With my assists, with my rebounds, like anything I could be helpful in. I know I've been underperforming, so I just knew like I had to be a force somehow. I had to wake up somehow. I had to wake up someday. And I guess I played really good those 2 games. I don't know. I just knew it was going to be a tough game, and I had to wake up, and I had to be a dominant force. So if it wasn't for my teammates telling me, we need you, KG, wake up, I probably wouldn't have woke up that game. So it was all my teammates. It was all my coaches for believing in me, and I just did it.
Yeah. Look, I basically just got one last question just for y'all, because honestly, I want to put spotlight on the whole team. What player, honestly, this year has just taken that leadership role and just said, like, hey, this is what we're going to do? Like, just been a leader in the locker room that has made y'all want to do better and made y'all want to play better.
Okay, I would say India, number 3, for sure.
Go ahead, tell me why.
Okay, so like on the court and outside the court, she's just like an amazing person in general. She always wants everybody else to win. Like, but even before herself, she'd just be like, she just like the way she communicates, she just like a leader on and off the court.
Yeah, I think she keep our spirits high sometimes. Like a lot of the time she'll get down on herself, but she'll just put that to the side and tell us like, come on, we need to pick it up, or just always opening her mouth and telling us what we need to fix. So I say India too.
Yeah, she's also one of the main reasons we don't dwell on a lot of things. Like she's always saying, next play, you got the next play. Don't worry about that. Leave the last play in the past and just stuff like that. She's always positive.
Thank y'all for being open and honest, because honestly, y'all could have gave any player in the locker room, and I'm glad that y'all put the spotlight on her. Michael, you got anything else to ask?
You know what? Yeah. I got one question for Miss Garner, one question for Miss Pelly here. So, Miss Pelly, my question to you is, as a guard who also averages a solid number of rebounds, how do you balance your offensive and defensive responsibilities on the court?
Okay, I would say with me being a point guard, I have to be the extension of the coach, and I am like the motor of the team. If I don't go, they don't go. So like with me being a leader, I have to play defense, I have to go rebound, I have to play like offense, I have to get everybody involved. So like me getting everybody involved is how we like continue to move forward and have good games and stay together and confident.
Agreed. And I'm actually glad that you touched up on that because that's a very important thing, in the rule or law of basketball is that, you have to have responsibilities on offense and defensive side of the ball because that's just what makes you a great player. When you have responsibilities on each side of the ball where you can get rebounds, you can score, especially when when you have no other option to go to and you have no point but just to, hey, go up with it. You know, you it's just about, the chemistry and just being able to have confidence in yourself despite of, circumstances. And let me be the first to tell you, I can tell you, conference play is hard, but you just have to take it game by game. And I know Coach Erica has already preached that to y'all. But Miss Gardner, my last question to you as well is that how do you see your role as an interior player fitting into the overall offensive strategy, especially given the team's ability to hit 3 pointers?
Like I said, I'm not really a player that, I need to score, I need to always score. I love getting assists. I love being able to drive and pull two and kick it out to my team because I think like when I'm able to do that, we get real hype. Like I love when my shooters shoot. I love when my posts, get a good post move and go up. Like I love getting everybody, pulling everybody in. Like she said, like I'm not really just always I need to score type of person. So when I'm able to get my shooters involved, I'm happy.
Agreed.
Well, we were thankful and very grateful for having y'all two on. And look, honestly, I'm glad that y'all came on our show as our first women's basketball players. And this is like, honestly, in our opinion, this is a huge milestone because, like Michael said at the beginning, we have not had women's players on here. And this is like, we said, we are trying to cover the whole broad of HBCU sports. There's so much to it. You got the women's side and that also, the women's side doesn't just get as much love as the men's. And honestly, the women's basketball is just right up there with the men's in competitiveness. So I think they should be getting as much, attention as possible. But look, y'all two are always welcome back on the show. And we're so glad that y'all were able to come in and just take the 15 minutes out of y'all's day to come in and just talk with us because this means a lot for, what me and Michael are trying to build. And if y'all just have anything y'all want to say to, our fans and our viewers before you go, that is just the last thing I ask you. And then y'all are good.
We appreciate y'all for bringing us on the podcast.
Most definitely. Keep going.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. And y'all enjoy y'all's evening. Mike, you got something to say?
Yeah, I just want to please say I just saw this post from SWAC TV, just basically SWAC weekly honors. Miss Jailah, you was there, and Miss Garner, you was there. So first of all, let me say congratulations to the both of you on being the SWAC weekly honors because it wasn't just one of y'all; it was both of you, especially from UAPB. So congratulations to y'all, and I just hope that the both of you have a great successful season. And like Duke said, y'all are more than welcome to come back on here. Don't think we got y'all on here one time and that's it. No, y'all are more welcome to come on here 2, 3, 4, 5 different times. It doesn't matter. Y'all are more than welcome to come on here because, like I said, what we try to do is we try to get HBCU players the chance to be on our spotlight and give y'all the media recognition compared to most other studios and all this in particular because what we try to do is we try to give HBCU players the hype and the fame that a lot of podcasters are not doing. And that's the whole point of Inside the Locker Room and HBCU Hoops with Michael and Deuce. So like Deuce said, we appreciate y'all. We wish y'all the best of luck on this season in general. And y'all are more than welcome to come back on here. We appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you. Thank you
for joining. Michael, that was a good interview, a great interview. But next to jump into the SWAC play of things, honestly, JSU started. Look, we knew about Bethune-Cookman. We knew that they were going to be a team that you didn't want to compete with in the SWAC. FAMU, you had your thoughts about them up there too. New head coaching regime, all that. JSU, they started slow in non-conference play, but when we say conference play is what matters, and they've gotten out to, I believe, let me check, a 5-2 start.
Yeah, 5-2.
What are your thoughts on the top 3 teams in the SWAC right now? Because these teams, in my opinion, are the teams that, and no disrespect to Southern Alabama A&M, but these 3 teams right here are the teams that, if I'm Grambling or I'm another team looking on the schedule, this is the team I'm not want to face. Bethune-Cookman has beaten the majority of their opponents by more than 15 points, and that's due in part to their team being very efficient on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. But Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with Bethune-Cookman first, because whether y'all know or not, we've been talking high praise on Bethune-Cookman even before conference play started. Me and Deuce both said that Bethune-Cookman is one of the hottest teams in the SWAC, and right now they're proving that. But Deuce, Bethune-Cookman's men's basketball team lead the conference in a 6-1 record so far, or 6-2, I believe.
Their only loss being the Southern. That's why I say keep Southern.
Okay.
I to cut you off. Don't throw Southern just out of the bunch yet as a top team in the SWAC, because they are still a top team in the SWAC. Me and Michael saw what they did to Grambling just head on. I know I'm getting off schedule, but to the ones thinking that we're not trying to talk about Southern, don't worry, Southern. We will talk about y'all in a bit, but right now we just want to highlight the 3 teams that are at the top of the standings.
Yes, and okay, so I just want to make sure my information was correct. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. So the success puts them in a strong position for the first ever NCAA tournament appearance. Now, there are positives to their success so far this year. The Wildcats' success is built on several key factors. Coaching and experience, first thing. The team is led by head coach and athletic director Reggie Peters, who has successfully turned the program around from being a preseason last place pick to the preseason favorite. This stability and strategic leadership are crucial. Now, second thing, talent and depth. Dudes, we talk about this all the time. The team features a mix of returning talent, like leading scorer Jacoby Haiti, averaging 17.2 dudes points per game over the last 10 games, and significant transfers, which provides depth and character to their roster. Third thing, home court advantage. Dudes, what I've seen in the last few weeks and the last few games is that Bethune-Cookman is real dominant at home. The crowd is in effect and is helping them to secure their win. Bethune-Cookman holds a strong 6-1 record at home so far this season, turning their home court into a challenging venue for opponents. Without the shadow of a doubt. Deuce, they literally just played Alcorn and, beat them almost 20 points at most.
What they did to Jackson State, they beat them 85-48. They beat Alcorn 82-73. So this Bethune-Cookman team, and this is why I say what I say. Look at as a team, as this Bethune-Cookman team is starting to get hotter, and you kind of see it as the game's going. They had a close game with FAMU. They came in the next game, smacked Grambling out the water. You're 1-1. Then you lose. You're 2-0. Then you go and you play Southern, and you lose to a good Southern team. Who, yes, we did say some. We said I'm not gonna say we had our doubts about that, but we had our opinions about Southern. Southern is a pretty good basketball team, and the fact that they were able to do that to Bethune-Cookman shows a lot, because that's Bethune-Cookman's only loss of the year. But you go on a 4-game win streak. You beat Valley, you beat UAPB, who we've been saying is a top team in the SWAC all year. You beat Jackson State, who honestly just the only loss they have is to Alabama A&M, and that was not just to Alabama A&M, but one of their main losses is to Alabama A&M, and we know that was a shootout between Dozier and Ruffin. Then you go into Alcorn and you beat them by 9 points. So I'm looking at Bethune-Cookman. You got 2 away games. You got Alabama State and Alabama A&M, 2 really good opponents that are coming up next. If I'm Bethune-Cookman, honestly, I'm just riding this momentum train that we just had into these next games. Honestly, I think Bethune-Cookman just doesn't lose a game until February. I'm not February, but mid-February.
Yeah, and here's another thing that I want to add to what you're saying. Their offensive efficiency. While their overall offensive numbers aren't top tier nationally, okay? What I mean by that is they have 74.2 points per game. Now, dudes, in ranking wise, that's 237. That's not entirely much, but at the same time, in SWAC play, in my opinion, that's good enough. But even though, okay, like I said, even though they're 74.2 points per game, I still think, as far as, SWAC conference play, that's pretty high number in all standards wise. But here's the thing. Their shooting in conference play has been effective, as evidenced by their 87-83 win over Florida A&M when they hit 8 of 18 3-pointers. Resilience. They have demonstrated resiliency by overcoming non-conference losses to national ranked teams like, and I know you read me on this, Auburn and Arizona, to focus on their conference success. Now, may I remind you, UAPB almost beat Auburn. I'm sorry, not UAPB, Bethune-Cookman almost beat Auburn. Okay?
In their own, and Auburn Stadium too. To note that.
Yes. And I can go down this here. Dudes, they were literally competitive with Missouri. They were literally competitive with Florida, not Florida A&M, excuse me. They were nearly in competitive with Auburn. They were like deadlock center with Auburn. And knowing Auburn is an SEC team, it is hard to play SEC teams like that, like Auburn.
Also, I want to say this real quick. Shout out to Prairie View A&M because they also put up a fight with LSU as well. So this is what we say. Yeah. It is not hard. It is hard to play against SEC teams. SEC teams in basketball, if you want to consider them SEC, SEC, Big Ten, or SEC, Big 10, Big 12. Those are like my top 3 conferences in college basketball when it comes to it. And the fact that you ever go on the road and put up a fight against them and almost beat them in their home stadium, that goes to show a lot. And look, Michael, I know you remember a couple of years, LSU head coach Kim McCarthy had to give her props to the HBCUs from how they were playing. So that's what I'm saying. Like, these HBCUs can play ball, women's, men's. And I know I'm getting off a track, but this is just to the people that say, "Oh, HBCU is not competitive." Look what they're doing to these SEC schools, these bigger schools that are getting way more funding than them. Yes, we may not win, but we sure do put up a fight with them. And the fact that Auburn only lost by, I believe, 4 or 5 points, it goes to show a lot.
It does, and that's what I'm saying. You know, and first of all, shout out to Kim Mulkey to not only understand HBCUs, but see how HBCUs play. Because it takes a strong person to see how well HBCUs perform, women's and men. And that's why we do this, dude, because we want people to understand that don't know nothing about HBCUs, is that HBCUs are just as competitive as the SEC teams, just as the Big 10 teams, just as the Big 12. The SWAC might not be as big as those conferences are, but they're one thing that they have in common is that they're competitive. It's that it's competition. It's hard to determine what and who is the most dominant team in the SWAC play because game in and game out, it's kind of hard to decide because every game is the best team in the SWAC can get whooped by the team that can have the sorriest conference record. That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna say this. That's why we say wait into the SWAC tournament because we don't even know when. I say this all the time as a reference. Grambling made a run in the SWAC tournament last year, and they could have been to the championship. And I believe it was Alabama State by like 2 points. They would have been in the championship if I didn't watch the full because I didn't. Once it got to a point after like halftime, I started watching the game, and that's on me. This was last year. I was still a freshman, but my point is you can make a run in the SWAC tournament no matter how bad you are. That's why I'm still yet to count it. Michael, I remember you told me when Grambling was supposed to play Mississippi Valley, you can't count Valley out despite the record. Yes, Valley has no wins on the season, but you never know. Like, that's just what I'm saying. But back to the Bethune-Cookman side of things. I said this when I first started this topic. Bethune-Cookman is very efficient offensively. And this is when majority of your players are shooting over 40%. That's I see that as good in my books, okay? And you're led by guard Jacoby Heedy, averaging 17.2 points per game. And I said this before, their whole starting 5 is averaging over 10 points per game. So you continue to have, and I'm gonna put this into retrospect. Bethune-Cookman, their whole starting 5 is scoring 10 points per game, and your bench is actually scoring. They're averaging 5, 6, 7 points per game as well.
Right.
Grant, for the other hand, you got 3 players on your starting lineup putting up 10 points per game. When you have better efficient scorers in the offense, you're able to score more and you're able to move the ball better. And that's what Bethune-Cookman has done all year. We saw what they did against Grambling. Well, the second they got the lead and they started passing the ball and opening up the offense more, Grambling could not catch back up and get back in the game. They did that to Jackson State. They did that to Alcorn. Southern, who is coached by Southern, who has a very good team, just was able to out game plan them and beat them on their own home stadium. And that's why I still give my props to Southern. But Michael, the next team I do want to talk about JSU as a top team. I remember after the Alabama A&M game and the Jack State game, you said don't be so quick to jump on Jack State. even when Jackson State lost, I believe they lost one game in the Chris Paul tournament. I'm not sure, but I think they lost one game in the Chris Paul tournament. You said, look, this team is still a very good program. I wouldn't sleep on them. And you said, JSU fans, like, they're not tripping about it because they will be back. So what are your thoughts so far with JSU?
Yeah, and let me say this. Jackson State, they're proven time and time again that they are one of the top teams in the SWAC. Despite of them,
I hate to count you real quick. A top team, a top team, in I see Jackson State as a top team in all the athletic fields, really. And that's really a good, you got to give the props to their athletic director who's just put all that in stone.
Yeah. But then you also got to think about this too. Jackson State has progressed throughout every single year. It started with, Deion Sanders, and then it transferred on to basketball, and then, it transferred on to softball, and it transferred on. The program in general, they're finding the right people. And Deuce, I say this all the time. When you find the right person for each sport that knows how to coach each and every sport, that goes a long way. So the athletic director, like you said, I give props to him as well because he's found the right coaches. And then when Deion Sanders left, TC Taylor took control of that. And Jackson State, they haven't really lost much of anything. They're still dominant in football SWAC play. They're still dominant in basketball, women's and men's SWAC play. It's just Jackson State is just proving that they have progressed, whether people don't see it or not. But dudes, the Jackson State men's basketball team SWAC record is 5-2 so far as of January 27, 2026. Their most recent result was a 66-65 win over Florida A&M on January 26th, which solidified their current 5-2 record standing and their third place ranking in the SWAC. Their positives for their success, Deuce, the Tigers' success in conference play, especially after a challenging non-conference start, is due to several key factors. And you can list this out if you want. If you got pen and paper, to all audience, if you got pen and paper, you can write this down as well. First of all, experience roster. The team returns key players from the previous season's SWAC championship run, including preseason SWAC player of the year. Deuce, we talked about this guy a few weeks ago, Deshaun Ruffin, and a 2025 SWAC freshman of the year, Dorian McMillan, who provided leadership and proven talent. Number two, strong coaching. Head coach Mo Williams has built a cohesive program focusing on player development and a system that prepares the team for intensity of conference play. Number three, resilience and battle testing. The Tigers' difficult non-conference schedule against top-tier teams like Arizona, Illinois, and Louisville, and let me also add this other team in here, Auburn, prepared them for tough, high-pressure situations, which translates well to conference play. Number three, effective home performance. Jackson State Deuce has capitalized on strong home environment. Deuce, they have a regular 3-1 at home right now. In conference play, using their support to their fans to fuel their wins. Deuce, I say this all the time. Home court advantage matters, but the crowd can have all the energy in the world, but it's all determined on how you play in your home environment. Deuce, for example, Grambling plays Southern, and we talked about this when we were there at Freddie C. Hubley Assembly Center. Is that you have to control yourself and how you play despite of it being at home. That's one thing about conference play. It does not matter where you play. It's about how you play. And Grambling did not prove that.
And I'm going to say this. I'm glad that you mentioned it matters. Like, it doesn't matter where you're at. Southern literally came into the Frederick Hobley Center, and they came in there, and they smacked Grambling, like, bad. And, me and Michael were talking about, and I'm sorry to the Grambling. I'm sorry to Grand fam. I'm sorry to Grand fam because I'm about to be brutally honest. When I told you at the women's game, when we came in there, and they were down, and we said, Michael, they can still come back. But what were they doing after every possession? Turnover, miss free throw, miss shot. It's just like, and then you go to the men's side of things, and it's even worse. So I'm saying home court advantage, yes, it can play, it can help you a lot, but at the same time, a team that can beat you does not care about home court advantage. Bethune-Cookman, Jackson State, FAMU, Southern. Those are the best 4 teams in the SWAC that just can beat you at home. And we've seen that time and time again all year. And honestly, and if I'm Grambling, and I know this is like kind of segue into next talk, Grambling plays Jackson State next week. They play them on the 31st at Jackson State. Grambling has not looked good, and we're not going to sugarcoat this, Michael. Has Grambling looked good since they started the top of conference play? They started 2-0, and since they've lost 3 straight, it has not looked good. But you got a game against UAPB tomorrow. You got a game against Jackson State, on next week.
Yeah.
If I'm Grambling, like you just said, they're playing away at Jackson State. And for Grambling, you cannot rely just on Antonio Munoz. And when I say this about Grambling, their offense has to be more. You have to get more people involved on the offense, Michael. You have to get more people involved on the offense. And I know I'm kind of getting off track because I want you to finish your little thingy about, Jackson State. But
no, you're good.
My thing is like when I'm really thinking about it, you're playing certain teams in the SWAC know how to beat you, and it don't matter if it's away or home. And one thing about Jackson State is when they do play Graham, it's going to be very competitive. But Grambling has to be more efficient on the offensive side ball, and we said this when they played against Southern. They have to get rebounds. They got to make the free throws. Michael, how many free throws did they miss against Southern that put them in like a huge gap, like 6 in like the first half? It was more than that. At the start of the game, they missed like a good 6 that made Southern go up like 8.
Dude, so I can pull up the stats right now, and I can guarantee you the free throw shooting was not as elite as Southern was.
The ones watching it, if you go watch our play-by-play, you will hear me and Michael talking about all the missed free throws.
I mean, literally. And then, I got the stats pulled up right now. Dude, Southern whooped Grambling. The only spot that they didn't whoop Grambling is free throwing. And I don't know if this is entirely correct because according to ESPN, they're saying that free throw percentage wise, Grambling shot 69 to Southern's 59. But at the game, it looked like Southern shot way better.
Just look at the first half. That's what I would. Okay, maybe because we left early in the second half, but the first half free throw percentage was terrible. Terrible.
That three-point percentage was terrible. Dude, I got the stats right now. Southern shot 32%.
Michael, didn't you not tell me they did not make 1 3-pointer like the entire first half?
Dude,
you can't do that. With good teams like this, and I'm just, for the ones watching this, we might as well just go ahead and start talking about Grambling because it was already next to Grambling's like 2-3 in SWAC play, and they're on a 3-game lose streak. So we might as well go ahead and talk about this. Grambling, Michael, and I'm gonna say this to the ones watching. When we talk about Grambling, this is where y'all get the meat and the potatoes of the segments. Because me and Michael, we know how to talk about Grambling. One thing, that's one thing we know how to talk about. Grambling, you cannot shoot 3 for 16. You cannot shoot 14 for 44 and expect to win the game. You cannot rely on a freshman to win a game. And yes, Antonio Munoz is generational. He is an amazing talent for that offense, but you cannot rely on one player or you cannot rely on 3 players to win a game. And I'm tired of seeing the same thing. And yes, when Munoz had a bad game against Southern and nobody else stepped up, Southern came in and smacked them.
Yeah. And I don't mean to jump the gun, but I don't know if we talked about Florida A&M yet, but we're gonna touch base. We're gonna touch base on Florida A&M later. But I'm kind of glad you jumped to that Grambling segment because
your largely was 27 points.
Yes, and then not only that, your turnover percentage. You cannot have 23 turnovers to Southern's 13 and expect to win like that. You cannot expect. The only thing that they did well at Deuce was rebounding. Deuce, they out rebound Southern 38-32. which is pretty good. But at the same time, you got to make your shots. You cannot go for a 14 or field goal range. You can't go. First of all, I don't know how clear I can touch this. You cannot go 3 or 16 from the 3-point line and expect to win. Even though free throws, like I said, free throws they matter, but they don't determine. Dudes, I even say that at the game. Free throws matter, but they do not determine how you win the game. You got to score more points than going to the free throw line, and then you barely made your free throws anyway. But again, you cannot shoot the way you did against Southern. But dudes, like we literally said this when Grambling was 2-0 in SWAC play when they first started, that it's still too early to call. And I said this, Grambling can literally slip. And they slipped in the last 3 conference games. They're 2-3 right now.
They were at the top of the conference. And
yes,
they just like that. Michael.
Out with the old, in with the new. That's the thing that Grambling needs to do. Whatever's worked in the first 2 games, you gotta throw that in the trash. That evidently that's not working. You got to figure out new ways to win.
Agree. And to the ones and you can say Grambling, we've had a harder schedule. We played Bethune, Florida A&M, Southern, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Jackson. And yes, that is a hard stretch of a schedule. But you gotta be better. Grambling, we've seen just Grambling perform better. And how they performed against Southern, look, how they performed against Bethune-Cookman and FAMU, I was like, okay, you see where they messed up and you see where they need to fix it. But then you came in Southern and it just looked like they took 10 steps back. And that just kind of was disappointing me. And look, Michael, if my question to you, though, is for Graham, how do you just prep going into Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Jackson State? Because you're about to play a very 2 tough games in the span of 3 games, in the span of 3 days, my fault. And yes, it's a bummer that the UAPB game had to get rescheduled. So Grambling has less time to prep for Jackson State due to them still, having, to prep for UAPB. And yes, this is due to the winter storm, whether that is just, coming. And look, the ice, Michael, is the ice still not out in the snow. So it's been a lot of factors that have gone into, this game getting pushed back. But Grambling, if I'm Grambling, you've had all this time to really mentally think and prepare to how you're going to play against UAPB tomorrow night. You got to go in and convert everything on the checklist. Everything. And then Jackson State is a good team. Deshaun Ruffin can beat you. He leads the team in rebounds. He leads the team in assists. He leads the team in scoring. That is a one-man walking army that can single-handedly drop 30 on you and beat your team by himself. And in this game like this, you cannot rely on Antonio Munoz. And like I said before, yes, he is a good and a phenomenal player, but you cannot rely on him. You have to use the whole team. Mike and I told you that at the game. The golden number, if your whole starting 5 can get over 10 points like Bethune-Cookman does, and your bench is efficient and can score, you're poised for success. Grambling has not been like that. And it's been like maybe 1 or 2 players off the bench scoring, but you need the whole team in general to score. Because if you're not scoring, what are you on the team for? If you're not scoring the ball, what did you get a college scholarship for? What did you transfer here for?
Right. And that's the thing. Grambling just, you had a long stretch to understand and find new ways to win. And dudes, that's the thing about basketball. Sometimes you have to out with the old and with the new. That's why I said, because like I said, Grambling started 2-0. They were on the right track. They were finding ways to win. But then when it came down to the last 3 conference games, dude, they slipped because what was working then isn't working now. And when you're playing teams like Southern, Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, you cannot win like that. You got to find different ways to win.
Scoring 72 points per game is just not going to win you.
It's not.
Scoring 72 points per game is not going to win. And they're allowing 73 points, but you put that into retrospect against teams like Bethune, Florida A&M, and Southern. Southern, they held them to under 70. Besides FAMU, and FAMU was a close game with Grambling. But still, you have to score more. And honestly, Grambling's leading scorer is Antonio Munoz at 12 points per game. And yes, he is a freshman. Yes, he still has time to grow and develop. But this is why I say instead of relying really fully on a freshman, and I'm not saying Grambling mainly is relying on a freshman. But I'm just saying the older guys have to step up. The team has to step up. The team has to step up. That's all I'm saying.
Because if you saw the Southern game, Deuce, it was a lot of frustration with Coach Patrick Creary II and his players, and then also his coaching staff. And I don't know if you saw what happened at Florida A&M game, Deuce, but it kind of got to a point where Patrick Creary he kind of got into a little heated exchange with the officials uh, at the Florida A&M game, and he kind of leaves a frustration where he threw his coaching board down and it broke. And then, you transfer that on to, like I said, the Southern games, a lot of frustration on that bench in general.
And I'm saying you saw the sidelines because you saw how it was affecting the players. You kind of seen how it was coming off on the players.
Yeah, it's just inconsistency. That's all it is. Grambling just has to find that consistency that they had when they first started conference play. That's all it is. I mean, if you look at their performance so far this season, their performance has been marked by strong home play, despite what happened against Southern, and their ability to score effectively in winning games, like when they first started 2-0. But like I said just a moment ago, inconsistency has led to a 3-game losing streak. They are currently ranked 10th in the SWAC right now. They got time to overcome. They got time to adjust. It's not the end of the world, but at the same time, you had this bye week. The weather kind of helped you out a little bit to figure out what's going on, figure out the identity, where the holes is at. Deuce, I say this all the time. Every team has a weakness, and Grambling has shown that the weaknesses are starting to overcome their performance, especially in the last 3 games. So, if I'm Patrick, Creary and the coaching staff and the players, I'm telling the guys like, hey, there's a weakness going around, and we can't see no coming, so we got to figure it out. And it's time to figure it out right now before we get started back and this ice is gone, it's melted, and then we get back into the string of things. But there's the positives for Grambling going into this game. Like I said, they have a strong home performance despite it being 5-1, despite what happened to Southern. They still have a strong home case. In their wins, they have demonstrated efficient scoring and depth with Roderick Coffey III and Antonio Munoz. Like you said, first of all, those 2 guys, you can't depend on those 2 guys. It takes your whole entire bench. That's why they say bench points, because I don't know if people realize that, but in basketball, bench points matters. It should not just come off from your starters there on the court. It comes from your bench to add on to those points. And that's another thing, dudes. Grambling's bench has to find ways to get more productive in scoring points. And that's what in that Southern game, that's what we just did not see. And I hate to be biased, and I know, Grand Fam is not going to agree with me on that, but like I said, I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. We have not been able to be efficient, be consistent. And then not only that, we have not been able to be smart on offense and defensive side of the ball. That's just point blank and simple. But dudes, here's a negative here, and I don't know if this might not play a factor, but it might have. A major factor in their 2-3 conference record is the injury to key point guard Roger Coffey III, who has been out with a concussion. His absence has created a ball handling issues, has highlighted by other players struggling with a higher number of turnovers in his place. The team has struggled in road games due to their record right now is 3-8, and faced some lopsided losses during non-conference play. But transitioning into this UAPB game, Grambling is 8-10 and 2-3 in SWAC play. UAPB is 7-13 and 4-3 in SWAC play. Grambling will look to snap a 3-game losing streak and leverage their strong home court advantage. The potential return of their point guard Robert Coffey III could be a critical factor. Now, UAPB enters the game with momentum after, first of all, I think a huge impressive win, 75-74 road victory over Southern University. And dudes, you just said it's not easy to be Southern at home. So the fact that and that's another thing. UAPB is showing that they are not a team to sleep on. They might not win every game, but that game against Southern, they made their voices well known.
And also mention, and I'm gonna shed some light on UAPB. You lost to FAMU by 4 points. You lost to Bethune-Cookman by 5 points. I say this: Michael, what have you been saying all year? Bethune-Cookman is a team not to sleep on in the SWAC. They've made progress from last season, and I know we're jumping off topic, but you just cannot take away from the greatness of what they're doing on the court from how they were performing last year. Bethune-Cookman is going to give Grambling a run for their money if Grambling cannot lock in on their inconsistencies. The fact that Southern is a hard team to beat, and you've seen it in their win. They only won by 1 point. They beat a tough team in Alabama A&M, who Alabama A&M went toe-to-toe with Jackson State. So if Grambling doesn't just get their issues fixed, we're going to just start to see this as seasons progress. And like I said this before, they've had a good week off to really mentally focus, mentally prepare. Hopefully they'll get some players back by then. But Michael, the next thing I do want to talk about now is FAMU, because we are going to jump back onto FAMU. What is just going on in Tallahassee, because they are doing phenomenal. And it's crazy to me that two teams that just left the MEAC, I mean, in 2020, I still call that recently. In my books, that's still recently coming to the SWAC because they're still new. And one, I'm gonna give note to FAMU because they already made the Celebration Bowl and one of their first years in the SWAC. But basketball terms, these two teams are leading the SWAC right now in conference play. And like you said, Michael, but Bethune-Cookman has a strong chance to make the actual NCAA tournament, which is hard to make. You know, normally HBCUs are like one of the first teams out, or they're like one of the last teams in. We saw Grambling go against Purdue a couple of years as a 16 seed. We've seen Prairie View. We've seen Texas Southern. We've seen Southern go there. I remember a couple of years we saw Grambling's women's basketball team go in there and play Baylor. So it's hard to make that tournament. But just focusing on FAMU, what has FAMU been doing right so far this year?
First of all, dudes, FAMU has an impressive 5-2 conference record and an 8-10 overall record as of January 27, 2026. While tied for first place in the win column with Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M suffered a loss to Jackson State on January 20th, ending their 5-game winning streak. The positives for their success, dudes, is that Florida A&M success this season, especially after being picked to finish 8th in the preseason poll, is attributed to several key factors. One, strong defense. Head coach Charlie Ward has emphasized defense, and it has become the team's main identity. Dudes, they ranked 3rd in the SWAC for points allowed per game in conference play. And Miles, I don't know how to say his last name. I think it's Nagolama. I think that's how you say his name. Forgive me if I don't say his name right. But he is notable, dudes, for shot blocker. Number 2, balanced scoring. The Rattlers have a balanced offensive attack with 3 double-digit scores, which means opponents cannot focus on stopping one player. Deuce, we literally just said it should not take 1 or 2 players to build a dominant team. You also have to depend on your bench. You have to depend on, your bench in general to help you extend your points, especially after your starters leave the bench. Talented roster. The team effectively combines transfers like Jaquan Sanders, who here it is, he's a high school Mr. Basketball, and has provided significant boosts to the team's scoring and leadership. Number 4, effective shooting in conference play. Deuce, Florida A&M, they have demonstrated efficient shooting, particularly in recent wins, including a 51% field goal rate and a 37% three-point percentage in their victory over Alcorn State. Resilience and culture shift. Dudes, under first-year head coach Charlie Ward, the team has embraced as an underdog mentality, which has fueled their best SWAC start since joining the league in 2021 and 2022 season. The team in general, Charlie Ward has built a foundation of a winning roster. Okay. And like I just said, this is their best start since joining the league in 2021 and 2022. Florida A&M can also be that team to represent in the NCAA tournament and also in the SWAC championship. But that's one thing about tournaments, dude. Regardless of how good the team do in the regular season, you got to make sure you also do well in the tournament. Because even though Florida A&M is doing well right now, despite of being 5-2, they can still be that team. It can not be Bethune-Cookman. Be Florida A&M. It could not be Florida A&M. It could be Southern. You never really know in tournaments.
It could be all corn it could be all corn. You just don't.
Yes, it could be UAPB. That's what I'm saying. It does conference play does it matters, but in tournaments are meant to be upsets because there have been a lot of upsets in SWAC tournaments. There have been a lot of upsets in any tournament in general. That's why I said sometimes the team that does not have the best record can be the most surprising team. So even though all these three teams are doing really well, that does not take away from the other teams. So like I said, even though Grambling's 2-3, that don't mean they can't find me. That don't mean they can't represent the SWAC. That's what I'm saying. I'm not counting anybody out right now because it's 50-50 either way. It's 50-50 all around. And I know you can look at SWAC play and like, it's not a lot of teams on here that can catch up. Oh, they have time. They have time because the SWAC play just started in January, so they have time to catch back up. Grambling has time to catch back up. Southern has time to catch back up. UAPB, Alcorn. I can go down a list here. That's the thing about conference play. Surprises can happen at any point. And even though conference play is, just started right now in the month of January itself, especially for SWAC play, we still got a long way to go and to determine who will be the most dominant team in the SWAC tournament. And then we have a while to the SWAC tournament as well. So anybody can represent the SWAC. But dudes, let me also say this. I'm not going to take too much time on this. What this means for Florida A&M, and if we have some time, I'm going to do Jackson State and Bethune-Cookman as well. But what this means for Florida A&M in general is that contention for a SWAC title, validation of programs' direction, increase of confidence and mortality, and also historical significance. That's what this means for them. But there are some negatives. Even though Florida A&M is 5-2, they have an inconsistency of shooting, turnovers, overall record and scoring margin, second half lapses, and free throw disparity. There are struggles here. There are struggles here, and like I said, do all the time. Every team has a weakness, and if we have time, Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman, I got those as well. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to go too far into the negative, and I'm not going to go too far into what this means, even though Florida A&M is 5-2. But everything that I just said to you all is the reasons for what this means and the negatives going into this year. Because even though Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman, and Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman, and also Southern, if you want to add them in the mix, even though they're doing well, it's still too early to call because they can struggle just like Grambling did because Grambling was 2-0, right?
And oh my gosh,
they lost three straight.
I'm gonna say this. Also, I hate to cut you off. To the ones who watch this, and I know we haven't talked about Prairie View, I'm gonna make it an emphasis to talk about Prairie View next week. Prairie View is also a team that we haven't been talking about, but they're also a team that you just cannot sleep on due to their competition, their level of competitiveness in the SWAC. They may not be a top team, but there's a team that can give you a run for their money and you SWAC tournament. But Michael, the next thing I do want to jump to now is I had next on our topic is the MEAC. In the MEAC conference, Maryland Eastern is actually sitting at the top of the conference right now at 4-0. Michael, I told you this it was crazy because and I hate to admit this, but at the start of basketball season, I said, Michael, I did not know Coppin State and Maryland Eastern were in the MEAC for basketball. But I said great thing because now we get more teams to see like more competition play for the basketball side of things. And MEAC, in the MEAC side of things, Maryland Eastern is a team that caught me on guard. But I will say this: as much as I give my props because you beat Morgan State 66-49 and you beat Howard 69-57, But the last 2 games against a good Norfolk State program and a good Coppin State program, they have looked beatable. They have looked beatable. But Michael, just so far, I just want to ask you, what has gone into the success of Maryland Eastern, and how do they just continue this success? Because they have a game against Delaware State, and then they have a game against North Carolina Central coming up on the not coming up, but it got postponed. But then after I believe they got South Carolina State next. But whenever they do play North Carolina Central, how do they just prep for South Carolina State in North Carolina Central? Because they had a pretty good matchup coming up this week if it didn't get rescheduled. And North Carolina Central is right behind them in the MEAC, Michael. And you know yourself that team is a good program.
Yeah, and they are a good program, and that's the thing. Currently they're first in the MEAC conference with a 4-0 record in conference play. This marks the program's best start in conference play since 1973 and 74 season. That's a long time, but that's really darn good to do.
And I'm gonna say this, and I also gotta give my props to Maryland Eastern though, because it's not nobody on the team that's like relatively doing all the work. It's the group effort. Everybody's pulling in their weight. Everybody's pulling in their weight to win these games, and that's why I say my only negative is that you can score more points and just be more efficiently shooting the ball, but they're still doing good for what you just said. They haven't had this is their best start since the 70s.
Yes.
How can you complain?
And that's the craziest thing. But here's another positive, dudes. Like I said, their historic turnaround. After finishing with a 2-14 record in the 2024-2025 season, the Hawks were picked to finish 7th out of 8 teams in the 2025-2026 preseason poll. Second thing, depth and cohesion. Head coach Cleo Hill Jr. utilizes a deep rotation of 14 active players, which he credits for their early success in conference matchups. Key performances. Zion Oblin led the team with 20 points and 8 rebounds in a critical win over Norfolk State. Mr. Joseph, for example, currently leads the team in scoring with averaging, here it is, 10.6 points per game. Mr. Jaden Cooper contributed significantly with 19 points and 5 rebounds in a recent conference play. And like I just said before, High Moral, for example, both men's and women's basketball programs began conference play with a 4-0 record, significantly boosting campus moral and program visibility. Now, negatives, dudes, road performances. Dudes, I say all the time, it doesn't matter how many games you win at home, it's about how many games you win on the road as well. Road performances. While undefeated in conference play, the Hawks struggled significantly during non-conference play, holding a 2-12 record in away games, which is fair because in conference play games, I can't really count those because more of their games are away.
Can I note to you who they played in conference play, just so our viewers get a retro? You start the year off playing Georgia Tech, and you almost beat them. You go to overtime, you lose by 4 points. You play a good Georgia team, and I'm sorry they blew you out the wire 94-29. You play Nebraska. You play Creighton. You play Hampton. You play East Carolina. You play Virginia, who's ranked number 24 right now. You play North Carolina A&T, who is a good program over there on their side of things, and I hate that they're not in the HBCU conference. You play Virginia Tech, you play Wagner, and you play Texas, all before coming to starting conference play. That is just retrospect of who they played. And I see this as similar to UAPB. You have a tough non-conference schedule, and it just preps you for the conference schedule. You're playing all these hard opponents, and you come in and you practice. Enough practice against a tougher opponent will eventually make you better. And that's what this program has done. And I think they've gotten better just by playing these teams in the non-conference. They had 4 wins out of conference. And look what they did in conference. 4 straight wins.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying here. Despite of their out of conference, teams that they played, and like you just said, there are some teams that are ranked, there are some teams that are not ranked, but really good. The whole point of this here is that out of conference play, it's kind of hard to just think about those games. Because like I said, no one wants to see their team lose 20, 30, 35, points in just that game in general. But it's really I don't really look at conference games. I really look at I don't look at out of conference games. I look at in conference games, and they're 4-0 right now. And despite of how they started off on the right foot. Conference play it's 50-50. You win, cool. I honestly think that if you can play competitive enough to hang around with teams like you just said, dude, Virginia, all them other teams, you just have to, control yourself. I think there are some conference teams, out of conference teams that are good that you can beat, honestly. It's just about a matter of how you do as far as scoring, rebounding, and turnovers. That's just the only thing. But here's another thing. Their overall record, despite it being 4-0 in the conference, the team's overall record is 8-13, indicating early season struggles against high major and mid major non-conference opponents. Like I said, I just pointed that out because a lot of people are like, oh, they're 8-13. They're 8-13 because of the out of conference play, and that's another thing that I want obviously to understand. Yes, these HBCU teams they don't have the best records, but the only reason why they don't have the best records amongst like these other big schools is because they're playing your school to help them fundraise money for their program. So yes, their records are not going to be their records are not going to be all that in particular. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I can't shame non HBCU educated folks because they don't really understand why HBCU teams records are the way they are because of the fact they have to play your school to get money for their program. That's the reason. But that does not determine their success and how good dominant of a team they are. Conference play really determines that. Every team, from Bethune-Cookman all the way from Mid-Eastern, like you just said, it's at 4-0 in conference play, me at Clay. Okay, even though their records ain't 13. They ain't 13 because of out of conference play. But that does not determine how successful and good they are. But here's another thing. Statistical defects. Let me put it like that. Offensive rating, the team ranks near bottom of Division One in scoring offense, averaging 64.6 points per game. Deuce, that's 356 out of 365. Efficiency. The Hawks have a negative scoring margin of a negative 6.8 and struggle with turnovers averaging 15.2 per game. 3-point shooting. The team is shooting only 29.6% from beyond the arc, which may be a long-term concern as they face higher scoring conference rivals. Like I said, even though they're 4-0 right now, dude, it's still. Well, no, I take that back because MEAC play, they start conference play a lot sooner than SWAC play. But I just think it's still. I can't specifically say that because they're 4-0, they have a chance on taking over the MEAC conference. Not necessarily, because even though the MEAC conference is a smaller conference, they still have competition in that conference, women's and men's side of the ball. So I hope that Mid-Eastern, Maryland Eastern, excuse me, can continue to play like they have been, but it's going to take a long game by game, to continue to be undefeated in conference play.
Agreed. Michael, the next topic I do want to talk about, and I'm kind of glad that we are getting to this. Did I not say that we would be focusing more into the smaller conferences? And yes, actually, to the ones watching, stay tuned because we do have a big announcement coming at the end of this podcast for a new series that we are starting up. But what I will say, Michael, right now at the top of the CIAA conference, you got Virginia Union and Claflin State leading it. But you also just note this too. You also got teams like Bluefield State, and you also got teams like Fairfield State right behind them, undefeated. Just so far, with the teams I gave you earlier in the outline, just what has went into their success, on the offensive side and the defensive side, and just their success in general. Because honestly, Claflin is a team that caught me off guard, just due to how their offensive play and how they've been. But I'm gonna let you answer first before I give my take.
Honestly, I'm gonna let you take the first lead on this one. I'm gonna pass the mic to you.
All right, so basically, let me start. Let me start by this. I'm gonna pull up the schedule. Pull up the schedule. Just give me 1 second. Postpone. Yeah, so Saturday, January 24th, we saw Virginia State, and they played a very good Elizabeth State City team. But what actually I'm starting with is Claflin. So box score. Hold up 1 sec. I don't want to look at their recent game. Their most recent game was against Winston-Salem. So actually, we are going to take a look into Virginia State. But Michael, this basically goes all important. I keep saying this: offense efficiency is how you win these games. When I'm sorry for the first player, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but Tim, number 12, 6 for 8. You scored 13.6 rebounds, and you kind of see this throughout the team. You got Jacob Cooper scoring 12. You got William Hoffman scoring 8. You got Jared White scoring 17. You got Jared Clausen scoring 10. So this team is filled with players that can shoot the ball and score the ball and can get the ball to the paint. One thing I'm looking at right now is Jared White, 4 for 5 for the 3-point line. Threes are what gets you the most points. Michael, we said this at the Southern versus Grambling game. The more threes you make is the better you're going to put yourself to win these games. And what was Southern? Southern was out shooting the ball better than Grambling. And what did they do? They took the lead and they ended up winning the game. We see this with very good Virginia State, and they're very good from beyond the arc. You got Jared Clausen, who's also went 2 for 2 for 3-pointers. So he has 6 points for 3, and he's just 4 for 5 in field goal range. In summary, this team basically, first half, they started shaky, 2 for 5 from 3-point, but they finished 6 for 12. They were 25 for 45, and they were 15 for 25 at the free throw line. Yes, the free throws could be better. But what I want to note about Virginia State is basically just this offensive unit. They're led by playmakers that can score the ball. Michael, I tell you this in SWAC play. When you have players that can actually score the ball, you win games. Now, my only negative is that they should have some more players scoring the ball in more minutes that they played. But, it is what it is. But, just do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, both Virginia Union University and Coffin University have achieved notable success in the CIAA conference across various sports, academic performances wise. Now, for Virginia Union University, has particularly strong football program, while Coffin excels in men's track, field, and all this and that, and especially women's basketball academics. And I say that because I'm talking about the school athletic program in general, because for what people don't know about Virginia Union and Coffin University, and for what I didn't know, is that they have a very good strategic athletic program. Now, despite of them being 4-0 and everything, not 4-0, even though they're doing well so far in conference play, they have shown that they have a talented roster. They have a good coaching. Because I say this all the time. When you have a good, strong, positive locker room, that goes a long way. That goes a long way. And, I say that from a dominant regular season, for example. The future is bright for Virginia Union and Coffee University, especially in the CIAA conference. Now, for some people that don't know, yes, these are HBCU teams, the first 2 teams that we listed. But for some people that don't know, the recent head-to-head standings as far as the 2025-26 season, Virginia Union, recently secured a close road victory against Coffin on January 12, 2026, with a final score of a 66-64 win. As of later January 2026, Virginia Union University holds a slightly better conference record and is highly ranked in standings. Virginia Union is 7-2, and overall record is 18-3, while Coffin is 4-1 in conference play and is 12-2 in overall record wise. Virginia Union's success, here's a historic success. Virginia Union won the CIAA tournament title in 2018 for the first time since 2006. Recent performance. The the quarterfinal round in the 2025 CIAA tournament, falling to Fayetteville State in a close game. They were picked to finish fourth in 2025-2026 preseason poll. Coughlin success. Recent performances, Coughlin had a strong 2023-2024 season, finishing tied for the first time in their division and reaching the tournament semifinals. In the 2025 tournament, they were defeated in the quarterfinals by Lincoln, PA.
That's a very good program. Lincoln, Pennsylvania. Fun fact about Lincoln, Pennsylvania, because that's a very good athletic program. For some reason, in my FCS college football league, I have it set up to like a 16-team playoff, and it has all the FCS schools and it has all your Division II HBCUs. And for some reason, Lincoln, Pennsylvania makes it to the Final Four in the championship every year. I just wanted to throw that out there. But yes, Lincoln, Pennsylvania is a very good program. Michael, I'm looking at the standings right now. And you got Virginia Union, Bluefield State, Virginia State, Lincoln, Pennsylvania, Claflin, Fayetteville State, Shaw, Johnson C. Smith. We say this about even the SWAC play. You cannot really determine a winner until it comes time for tournament time. Because yes, we can be talking so good about Virginia State. We can talk a lot about Virginia Union right now. We can talk a lot about Claflin, but I think it just comes down to how it. Because right now I don't even have in the CIAA. I don't have a true who's the best team. Yes, Virginia Union is 3-1, but Bluefield State has their case because they're 3-0 right now, 7-2 in both, or 7-2 in conference play. And in the division, and one thing about the CIAA, it's split up into divisions. So you got your division and you got your South division. Getting to the top of your division is key. That is key. And we said that like with the SWAC, you have to get to the top of your division if you want to make noise for yourself. And but the one thing about the CIAA, I really can't even determine a true, like, right now, I think it's too early to tell which team is like, even with like which team is the best team and which team is, the team that is not on the right track so far. You can say, yes, Livingstone and Elizabeth City are 0-3 and 0-2, but they still have time, as the season progresses. The season will end in March, and you still have months to go. So if I'm going to say this, if the tournament starts on February the 24th, it starts on February the 24th. If I'm in the CIAA conference, especially, and I want to, if I'm in the CIAA conference, especially, because I do want to talk about Elizabeth City State. They do have to turn around, because that is one program I have noticed that has not been competing relatively against other teams in this conference. But that's basically my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that, because, like I said, these are very two historical, dominant programs, and that's one thing that y'all have to understand. For the people that don't know anything about the HBCUs that we talked about and the players that we spoke to, with the first UAPB women's special guest to come on here, is that the people got to understand that the SWAC in general, it's a lot of history behind that. It's not really just about the team. It's about the band. It's about the history of that.
Really, all these HBCUs, they have so much history. You go and look at it. You made these smaller HBCUs, like in the SEAC and the CIA. I'm gonna say, go look at Tuskegee, for example, Morehouse. Their history goes all the way back to the 1800s, and I mean, exactly. So it's just history. But we do got to wrap this up because we are hitting our time thingy. But the thing I did want to mention to y'all is me and Michael are collabing with a guest, Mark. We will be doing spotlight series on HBCUs, and as we go on, you'll see the goal is to tackle every HBCU, small and big, and we have it set up to where we do smaller ones first, and then we recap like the bigger HBCUs like Grambling. But first on our list, I believe, is Morgan State or Winston-Salem is coming up. I believe we got in contact with one of one of the coaches on Winston-Salem's staff, and then we also got in contact with one of Morgan State's players. So, like I said, big things are coming up for inside the locker room. But also, I just want to give y'all, another look in advance before we close this up. Next week, expect another podcast. Me and Michael I'll let you actually introduce our guests that we're going to have on for next week.
Yeah. So next week, before we jump into next week, we do have another MEAC player that another women's MEAC player. Let me say that.
Howard.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of her name right now. Let me. I'm trying to remember her name at the top of my head. Y'all forgive me, but her name is Miss Miss Zanaya Thomas, a forward from Howard University. That is our next special guest on Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. That is our next women's basketball session guest. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get women's and men's basketball players on here. But the fact that women basketball players are actually taking the time to come on here is a huge thing, because like I said, it's not just about men's basketball, it's about women's basketball as well. So the fact that both of the UAPB players are able to come on, both of not both of, but now we got a Howard player coming on, and 9 times out of 10, we might end up getting dudes, because you remember I texted you about this not too long ago before we started. But we also might have another player that is possibly going to come on out of I think it's Livingston.
Livingston.
Yeah, Livingston Conference.
They're also in the CIAA conference too. So that is, and look, when we do interview them, especially what I want to do for this, like really for the small HBCUs, really like dive into them, get to learn about them, get to interview them, because these players, we think HBCUs in general don't get enough attention. These small HBCUs do not get attention. Like, you have to say, huh? Like, what school is this? So that's what I'm saying. We got to get like more players on the map. I did have something I wanted to say.
More players in schools as well.
Yeah. Also, next week we do got a couple players from the UAPB men's basketball team joining the show. I'm trying to get a fourth one. I'm trying. We got 3 players right now. I'm trying to get it a fourth one to make it, but like, if you start to notice, me and Mike are getting guests on this thing as we go on. So if you're an HBCU athlete watching this and you want to get on the podcast, look, just DM me and Michael. We're open arms. We want y'all to get on. We want to continue to grow this podcast, and we want to network. And this is why this spotlight series, what we're doing on this HBCUs, is going to be important and huge that y'all support. And look, we're going to have a new co-host with us. We're gonna have a new co-host with us, Mark, that's just there for us to help us with this segment, and we're helping them. It's like it's a return. It's a return. We're working on a system, and it benefits to both of our parties to network. He's a writer, we're podcasters. We're putting it two together. We're networking. This is all in part to help inside the locker room. And also, we'll notice in about March 2nd, we have our 1-year episode with the whole group. Me, Michael, Adam, Ben, and our 5th. And I know y'all don't remember, Noah will also be back on the show for this episode. He is one of the OG founders. He had to step away, but he will be joining us on the show. So that will be a big one. Michael also did tell you, look, to the ones watching this right now, me and Michael, we're going to try to get into HBCU baseball. We're going to try to do it because we're going to look. We want to show as much love to these sports, Big things are coming for this podcast. Big things are coming from the podcast. And look, as I close out this segment, it all starts with y'all guys. Y'all are the ones liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. But I will notice this though. Come on, our views have been down a little bit lately. Just help us get them back up. We were averaging like 500 for a good little minute. And I know a lot of y'all are not into basketball like y'all are into football, and that is okay. But HBCUs, we have to support all the programs, and we have to support all the all the sports. One thing I also will say this: any Gram fam that wants to get on the podcast, DM me and Michael. Me and Michael, I told Michael this earlier. We are especially looking for Grambling players because Grambling players, that's our pipeline. We're right here in Grambling. So if you're a Grambling player and you want to get on the interview, make sure you just DM us. Also, me and Michael, we will be doing more in-person play-by-play games at Grambling State. Our video is out on YouTube right now. It's about like at 50 views. If you see that one, make sure you just like and drop a quick comment. But Michael, you got anything to say before we close out this podcast?
Yes. First and foremost, we appreciate all of you for taking the time to be on here. Second of all, we want to appreciate our first women's basketball player special guest for being on here. for some of y'all that don't know, that is a huge accomplishment to announce because it might not be important to y'all, but it's important for both of those players in general. Miss, I believe I'm saying her name right, Deuce. Janaya, is that how she said it?
Jailah Perry. Jailah Perry.
Jayla Perry. Yeah, Jayla Perry and Miss Garner for both of them taking the time to get on here and just express their knowledge and opinion. 'Cause like I told them, the same thing I'm going to tell y'all, HBCUs, what me and Deuce, we try to get HBCUs as much hype and fame that these other media teams, these other media news and all this and that are not doing. We're trying to make a difference. We're not doing this for fame. We're not doing this for popularity instance. We can care less about all of that. What we're trying to do is that we're trying to set a high standard vision for HBCUs, whether it's small, medium, or large, doesn't matter. We're here for all HBCUs. We're here for, even Southern players. If you would like to come on here, we were more than welcome to bring you up on here.
It's going to be no tension. It's going to be no animosity. When y'all come on here, it is strictly business. We just want to talk sports. Look, and at the end of the day, me and Michael, we support all HBC, and we may have our opinions about, because look, Southern is our rival. Southern is our rival, so we are going to have our opinions. But look, Southern, as much as like from the bottom of my heart, it is still deep down. It's love to y'all's program and it's love to y'all's HBCU because y'all are a historic HBCU alongside Grambling and alongside Jackson State. And the one thing I thank Southern for is that they give us a Bayou Classic against Grambling every year, and they sell out. They sell out. What's called? They sell out deals. They sell out the stadium. So I'm more than thankful for that. But Michael, do you have any closing remarks before we close this out?
First and foremost, y'all just stay tuned for everything that me and Deuce just listed out, whether it's special guests or, our co-host, our new co-host, Mr. Mark himself, for coming up on here. Because like I said, what we're trying to do is we're trying to set a high standard for HBCUs, and that's to make a difference. So we want to take the time right here for all of you to thank you for coming on HBCU Hoops with Michael and Deuce. And also, we will have a new intro for HBCU Hoops. I can't hear you. I'm hearing a knocking sound coming from you. Nah, I get you, but it's all good. But it's all good. But on behalf of me and Michael, on behalf of Michael and Michael Sports Talk and the Sports Talk with Dude, we appreciate y'all for coming on the HBCU Hoop. And also, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And also, you follow our new Instagram, HBCU Central, because because what we're trying to do is we're trying to make that just a platform just for HBCUs in general. Like I said, whether it's small, medium, large, doesn't matter. If you want to become a special guest on our episodes like today, just DM HBCU Central, me or Deuce, we both run that page. One of us will get back to y'all. But like I said before, we thank y'all so much for coming. We hope that you like and enjoy. Please like, comment, subscribe because we're trying to get to 500. That's the new goal now. We're at 303 right now. So we appreciate y'all for getting us up there. But just keep spreading and supporting not just me and Duke, but Adam and Ben on Inside the Locker Room. But until next time, grace and peace upon all of you. Stay safe. And to all our people in Louisiana, Texas, from all over in the South, please be careful on the roads and just be careful because ice is still upon us even today.